Service Corporation Board of Trustees meeting for March 25th will be called to order. Will the Administrative Director please call roll?
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor.
Shane, one moment.
Service Corporation Board of Trustees meeting for March 25th will be called to order. Will the
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, to
we're getting feedback on the YouTube.
Okay.
Okay, we're good, JT?
Yes.
We're good to go? Okay. Sure thing.
Can you
Roll
guys
call.
hear me?
We can hear you, Donna.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, Chief Justice Robert Torres, Chairman.
I'm present.
Presiding Judge Alberto Morena, Vice Chairman.
Present.
Attorney Jackie Terlahi, GBA President, Member.
She's not here currently.
That's correct. Trustee Christiana Whitman, Member. Not here.
Not here.
And last but definitely not least, Trustee Donna Munya Kanata, Member.
I'm here in my office in East Tegania.
Thank you. And that completes roll call for today.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. 3 of the 5 board members are present. The first item is we had the notice duly published and provided in the public notices and the PDSC and Guam Daily Post, and as indicated in the agenda, can I entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the February 25th, 2025 regular meeting?
Motion?
Move
Okay,
to subject to correction.
I'll second it, sir.
All right, it's been moved by the presiding judge and seconded by Trustee Kanata. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. There being no objection, those meeting minutes are approved. Under old business, we were originally going to skip this when we thought that the 6 AC were going to be present virtually to present to the board, but they just submitted a letter on the 6th Amendment report with the recommendations which the report which we received last year. They published it last year in March, and then the letter summarized their evaluation methodology and was requested by the PDSC for inclusion with the minutes at this meeting. So I didn't know, Shane, or Steve, if we just wanted to go through the old business since they're not going to be here and presenting in person. We were concerned about the time and the duration of that meeting. Should we just go ahead and continue with the old business before we get to the new business?
That's fine.
All right, so we'll go ahead and proceed with the old business, and we'll start with the financial status update from Mike.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good afternoon.
And can you speak louder a little, Mike, because it's difficult to hear you.
I will try my best. PDSC and APD are both operating at 99%. PDSC has also received the March release for CLC at 82,592, and as of today, the total received since October is 483,28. CLC is using these local funds starting in January 2025. Moving on to EJC, PDSC has issued invoices to DPHSS for October 2024 through February 2025 for 18,914 each month, and the only payments we received were for October and November 2024. PDSC is following up with DPHSS for payments. For ICJR and STOP, in March we did not see any changes, and from the last board meeting, in that for ICJR, before January and February 2025, invoice can be issued. I'm sorry, before January and February 2025 invoice can be issued, PDSC must receive the signed amendment from GCO, FPO, or the governor's office. This will reprogram salaries and benefits contractual. The balance as of today is 14,254. And for stop 22, PDSC is status quo and the balance is at 13,328. We are following up with payments for invoice submitted for November and December 2024 with the governor's office. And lastly, for WestCare, PDSC has received the $615 for February's invoice, and there are no outstanding balances. And that's all for the financial.
All right, thank you. Mike, the report from the PDSC, are there any questions of Mike before we go on? Okay, is there a report from the PDSC executive attorney?
Yes, thank you. So we're finalizing plans for our conference in July, so we really appreciate that the word's gotten out to the judges. It'll be July 9, 10, and 11. Of course, the board will be invited to that. We're gonna have a ceremony on the 11th, which is our actual 50th birthday. So we're hoping to get some proclamation and a resolution. And we have some speakers that are gonna be, providing CLE Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of that week. So we're really excited about that. As far as our caseload, we provided the stats here. It looks like we're really, we've opened 96 cases just in FY 2025. And so that's slightly tracking below what we've received in the past. And then, if you look at they recently released a UCR, the Uniform Crime Reports for 2023, it looks like, despite what the media is saying, crime actually appears to be down. And so, that's something that obviously could change at any moment, right? And so we have this individual caseloads for each of our attorneys. Right now, we are fully staffed with 16 attorneys. And so really, it's the first time really that we've been able to do it. And, we've readjusted caseloads to give all our attorneys more or less an equal caseload. The next slide, obviously, is our electronic monitoring. We changed it to a calendar year format. So these numbers are based on a calendar year. At least our electronic monitoring one, that's this page, right?
Yes.
So it looks like we've, applied for 20 just this calendar year. We've only had one granted, but we're still plugging away at those. A lot of people are ineligible due to things like prior warrants and things like that, but we're trying to work that out with the magistrates. If you go back to the other chart, it basically shows our pre-trial, like how many, we had 77 people who posted bail, which is really kind of a high amount for our client base. We have about 345 pre-trial individuals that are detained, 30 on electronic monitoring, and 690 on personal recognizance. We have a huge number of bench warrants, but I'm not sure if this might be cumulative.
Yes.
So it's a cumulative. Some of these bench warrants could be from the 90s. So altogether, we have about 1,988 active pretrial cases, and that's about it for our stats.
Is there any question for Steve on that? All right, and then we'll go to the next item on the agenda, which is the report from the managing attorney for the APD.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Annie.
So we did the stats for February, and then for up to calendar year, for the calendar year 2025. And so right now, we have 649 pretrial cases. And we did add the EM and the release statistics down in the corner, the February 2025. So we're still pending, like it says 72. We've got 30 ineligible, we've got 12 homeless, 24 submittals, and 18 revoked. So those are it's kind of interesting how we have how many detained as well as pending and vetted. I think at the last board meeting, Judge La Morena was asking whether we would be interested in working to review the EMP guidelines, and I would like to be a part of that. If there's going to be any updating or modifications, I would like to be a part of that. I think it should be reviewed by the courts. So anyway, these are our stats. Don't have anything else to report. Oh, Mr. Hattori and I did go on the radio. Was it last week, Steve? With Patty. I don't know if anybody caught it, but it was the 50th anniversary of Gideon. So we went on the air for that, and that was a lot of fun. She's interesting to talk to. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. I didn't catch the radio, but I did read the 2 articles that were op-eds.
Great articles, yeah.
Both of them, discussing PDSC, Gideon. So, and PJ, did you want to comment on the revision to the electronic monitoring rules? We did raise it at the Robes meeting of the Superior Court judges, and apparently the rules have, were adopted quite a number of years ago when the EM program first got adopted. And I think they were primarily done, with Magistrate Kwan at that time. And I think there is going to be a push to re-examine that. So PJ?
Yeah, I want to try to organize a meeting. This will include me, the 2 magistrate judges, Public PD and APD, and Public Attorney General's office and probation. So should I do that in the next couple of weeks?
Sounds good, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Is there anything else? Any other questions? All right. If not, then we will go ahead and proceed with the report from Carol, CLC Managing Attorney.
Hi, good afternoon, Your Honors. So basically, we provided our statistics, and I'll just keep it to the stats for now because I also thought we're going to discuss the other one, the 6th Amendment. But our stats are provided. What's missing on our stats is the tax stats as well as our supportive services for our veterans family. And I'll make sure that that is placed on the agenda at the next meeting. I know that we provided it, but there might have been it wasn't attached onto this, but we can email it to the board members if they'd like, so that they have the complete set. But our numbers seem to be tracking last year's. Some of them are actually higher than last year, such as the civil law. When it comes to like the guardianship matters and everything, we're seeing a rise in that. And so our numbers are, if you compared it to the last year's statistics, it's actually tracking at a higher number in that area. But these are the stats for Civil Law Center and Elder Justice. We continue to do outreaches. We'll also be doing outreaches in the media as well, and working with the University of Guam.
All right. Any questions from Carol? All right. If not, we'll go to the next item, which was the 6AC projects. And I didn't know, Steve, if you had anything in mind on this. I would note that we did receive a letter addressed to the PDSC Board of Trustees from the 6AC organization, specifically from Aditi Goel, who's the deputy director from them, and, you know, basically summarizing the report and the recommendations for the statutory amendments. And those recommendations included that Guam vests the authority to oversee all indigent legal services in an independent commission, right to counsel commission. We empower that commission to promulgate and enforce standards applicable to all indigent defense system attorneys. That commission also collect, analyze, and report on the data needed to ensure that there's effective representation and that there be authorization and funding of the commission to carry out the day-to-day duties of the commission and to fund the indigent defense. And so that was included all in the letter, and I think we'll be talking about that when we address the resolution that's before the Board of Trustees about the reorganization of the Guam Public Defender Corporation to oversee indigent legal defense services on Guam. So I didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to add on the 6AC report at this time, Steve or John?
We can just move to the new business.
Okay. So with that and with recognition of that letter coming in, the next item is the resolution that's before the board relative to the reorganization of the Guam Public Defender Service Corporation. And the whereas clauses talks about, you know, the importance of effective assistance of counsel for indigent defendants, and the PDSC's current role in providing primary representation, and APD's role, and then the private attorney panel, which was overseen by the judiciary of Guam, and the recommendation for the independence of the indigent defense system. And, you know, although the judiciary has overseen and provided administrative support for those operations, the report has recommended that the independence of indigent defense is essential to ensure that undue influence doesn't come from a single branch of government. And so I know that Speaker Blas has been working as part of his Criminal Law Revision Commission, and the criminal reform has been looking at reorganizing the public defender. He introduced the bill, I think just recently, I'm not exactly sure when, 9638. We had hoped that the speaker would have had more sponsors. Our understanding was, and we had reached out to others, including, I believe, our chairperson, for joining him as sponsors on that bill. And I guess it was released maybe prematurely. I don't know for sure, but I understand that he is working to get other sponsors as well on the bill with him. And so a copy of Bill 9638 is there, and it essentially allows the reorganized Guam Public Defender System to manage the island's public legal services delivery system. And they'll have, you know, that will be they'll have a public defender division, an alternate public defender division, a civil legal services division, and a private attorney panel, and authorizes the corporation to, again, as in accordance with the recommendations, promulgate and enforce standards for indigent defense, collect and analyze data, and allocate the resources to maintain effective and equitable representation. And if we take a look at the bill, I do want to just go through a couple of the provisions in the bill and that was introduced after looking at it. It goes through the process of reorganizing the public defender office, as we talked about. and it, looks at much of the findings based on the report from the Sixth Amendment Center. And what it does is the Public Defender Corporation is reorganized and specifically into the separate divisions that we talked about. An administrative division, which is going to be responsible for the day-to-day operations of the PDSC, including overseeing the indigent defense, the Public Defender Division, which will provide legal services, the APD, which provides legal services when the public defender has a conflict, and then the Civil Law Center, and then the Private Attorney Panel Division. So those are the four divisions that are established. The membership on the Board of Trustees also changes from the existing membership. It's going to be 7 members, 4 of whom are licensed to practice in jurisdictions that are subject to the Sixth Amendment, and 2 members get appointed by the Chief Justice, 2 members by the governor. One of the Chief Justice's appointment has to be an attorney. The 2 members by the governor, one has to be a lawyer as well. And let me just go back here. So, and then 2 members by the speaker, one of whom has to be a lawyer, and one who has experience in public administration or finance or budget. And 1 member gets appointed by the Guam Bar Association, who must be a lawyer. And then, so the board has a new members and a new composition. The term of the board members is 4 years, and the board members are staggered board members, so that there's always going to be continuity with those board members. And then and it sets forth through there all of the different duties, the director qualifications of each of the respective divisions. The interesting thing to note, and we discussed this when we were reviewing the personnel, the evaluations of the managing and executive directors of the Public Defender Service Corporation and the alternate Public Service Corporation. In Steve's situation, that position opened up as an unclassified position, and Steve actually applied for and did it. But Steve had essentially given up his classified position to take what was an unclassified position. And similar to what had been done with other organizations, when a classified employee serves in a management position, they can take this, get a step up, but would, during the time they serve in the unclassified position as a manager. But if in the event that they are replaced as a manager, they can go back into their unclassified position. So this makes it clear in the statute, so there's no confusion with that. And similarly, that same situation would apply to the managing attorney for the alternate public defender. And then it also establishes the Public Defender Services Corporation Fund, which would be maintained by the Administration Division of the Public Services Corporation. And the money received from that corporation would fund the indigent defense, and all expenses for the corporation and divisions would come from that. And then, there's some reporting obligations to submit an annual report to the legislature, including I think it's quarterly for the certain types of financial reports that would be required, and then dealing with how the appointment of private attorneys will and they would take place, and compensation paid to the private attorneys on the private attorney fund. And then and so that is kind of in a nutshell what the legislation provided. The key points, it also references the fact that the legislature in the whereas clauses, if you go back, and this is important when we think about this in the structure of the Public Defender Service Corporation. For the last few years, we've relied predominantly on filing fees to pay for indigent defense funding, filing fees, and from the Client Services Fund. And most state governments fund indigent defense through a variety of sources. One is through a state government appropriation. One is through local government, which of course we don't have. And then an alternative funding source, such as, fines or fees based on filing fees. When that's the alternative revenue source, and that generally, and under 6AC has pointed out that generally does not work as a primary source of funding for indigent defense, because there's no correlation between the resources needed to provide effective defense services and the funding that's raised through these fines and fees. And the Client Services Fund was intended to be really a supplement to the indigent defense funding that occurred previously when the Client Services Fund was first utilized to cover some of the shortfall for indigent defense funding. It wasn't intended to sort of replace in its entirety the indigent defense funding, and you'll see in the reports, in the whereas language of the bill, it actually goes through, I guess, and points out where the legislature had come through and had funded indigent defense in the past. And we used to get, if you recall, direct appropriation from the legislature for a number of years. And some of that appropriation during the early years, of course, went to the courts to fund indigent defense, and then was used to pay private attorneys when there were contracts with private attorney firms to provide indigent defense. And then part of it, when APD was created, was used for APD with the balance for a private attorney panel. But that amount has simply basically just been now sufficient to fund APD's alternative, and no additional money above what has funded APD has been provided for indigent defense other than what comes from the Client Services Fund. And the difficulty with that is, first of all, it puts us in a situation where if we want to get more money to adequately fund indigent defense, we would have to raise those fees, and we don't think it's appropriate to be in the process of raising the fees right now. And secondly, that was really intended to be a secondary source, not the primary source of funding for indigent defense. And what it has done is it has detracted from because it's now being used predominantly to fund indigent defense, has taken away from its main intent of the Client Services Fund, which was to pay for counseling services, drug treatment, drug testing, costs, other costs associated with indigent defense besides attorney fees, mediation services. So the Client Services Fund, has been, especially with the increases and before, has been decreasing and not being used for the purposes that it's originally intended. So this also makes clear that that they recognize, the legislature recognizes that funding has to go to pay for indigent defense through a direct appropriation. So that's kind of in a nutshell, my review of the bill. And I don't know if anyone else had any comments or thoughts on that. PJ?
Right now, I don't have any comments.
Okay. All right, so we do have a resolution that's before us, which is to endorse the reorganization of the Public Defender Service Corporation. Can you pull up the resolution again?
Yes, Your
Rather
Honor.
than the bill?
Let me pull that up.
So we do have a resolution before us, before the board, supporting the bill to reorganize Public Defender Service Corporation, and transferring the indigent defense legal services oversight to the public defender as reorganized in the 4 separate divisions: an administrative division, a Public Defender Service Corporation division, actually 5, a alternate Public Defender Service Corporation division, a Civil Law Center division, and then the Private Attorney Panel division. So can I entertain a motion to approve the resolution? PJ?
Yeah, move to approve.
All right, is there a second? There's a
Second,
second from a trustee, so there's a motion. It's been seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
aye.
There being no objection, that resolution passes. And we look forward to, working with the legislature. I'm a little, I don't want to say disappointed, but I was surprised that the bill was released, I guess, without the additional sponsors. I understand those offices had been contacted as well. So hopefully we get all the sponsors that are on there. And I'm sure the speaker will be open for that and get that done. The next item on the agenda is public discussion. Anything under public discussion? All right, there being none, we will have a motion to adjourn. Our next meeting date is going to be April 22nd, where we'll have to approve our budget. And that would be a budget meeting for us.
Chief Justice,
Yes,
Your Honor, sorry, I know we left the date at April 22nd because that's our normal date, but I know there was a request to move it to the 21st. I believe there's.
oh, yes, hang on one second. Let me just check that. Yeah.
Yes, Your Honor, we have a Guam Bar.
Oh, yes,
conference
that's
scheduled.
correct. That's why, Jackie. Oh, let the record reflect Jackie was here. I'm sorry, Jackie, I didn't notice when you came in on the
No
screen.
problem, no problem.
Yeah, we do. That's exactly right. There is a Guam Bar annual meeting is scheduled for the 22nd. And so if there's
And
no
I leave
objection,
that
we'll
day.
have the meeting on the 21st.
The
All right, no,
21st is a Monday, yes.
Right. So we're going to have it on a Monday instead of a Tuesday because of the Guam Bar meeting.
What can we have it on the 29th, the next Tuesday?
I'm not gonna be here, sir.
Oh.
Just, I'm
And it's a
gonna be off
budget,
island.
and I don't want to leave it to chance in case we've got to submit the budget by, before April 1st.
April
Right,
1st or May
uh,
1st.
I mean, May
May
1st, I'm
1st.
sorry, May 1st.
Yeah, OFB's deadline is May 1st for our budget.
Yeah, May 1st. So PJ, you can appear virtually Monday?
Yeah, I can appear virtually, yes.
Okay. All right, we'll do it Monday, the 21st. Thank you for your indulgence on that, and the Guam Bar thanks you.
So I move to
Motion.
adjourn.
All right,
Second.
there's a motion to adjourn by PJ. Is there a second?
Second,
Second by trustee Kanata. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Have a good day,
All right,
everyone.
take care.
Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, enjoy your
Take
conference.
care.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.